All right, welcome everybody. Let's see here. We have a good group of people here. Great. So we're going to do a full value training today. You know what? I'm gonna run this with everybody today. Let me see if what I think I'll do is I'll use my actual whiteboard here to actually work with you guys today instead of doing it on the whiteboard behind me. Okay, so one of the things I like to come in and do once in a while is just come in and just do a full value training for you guys, where I just kind of run through all the nuts and bolts of everything that we do every single day. And the reason why I like going through that is because it gives you guys a real life perspective of what to expect as you guys are taking down residential builds, but really the multifamily stuff. I always tell people residential is a great place to start, but don't stay there. Don't stay there, because if you do, you're going to have active income forever, but you're never going to have a lot of passive income. And if you want to ever, at some point in time, retire or get to a place where you have options, and I wouldn't really call it retirement because I'll probably never like fully retire, but to have options, then you need to do something that performs at a level that can sustain whatever type of revenue that you're accustomed to living on right now. And or if you don't have the revenue that you would like to live on right now, then make that. And then once you get to that place, then scale that into something. Now, one of the biggest things for me, the biggest attribute for me is the taxes, guys. The taxes. Taxes are brutal every year. And I know you guys feel this. What's up, Jeremy? I know you guys feel this, is that anytime, even when you work a W-2 job, you sit back, and I know that because my employees do this to us. They'll work like overtime. They'll work a ton of hours. Then they'll get their paycheck thinking like it's going to be astronomically higher because they're making $25 an hour, whatever they're making, right? And then they sit back and they realize that it's not that much more than even if they wouldn't have worked the overtime, which really sucks for us because they get taxed so hard. Or if you're self-employed and you sit back and you either do one of two things. If you're very disciplined, you work at the beginning of the year and then you pay that stuff off, okay? And if you don't work at the beginning of the year to pay that stuff off, then at the end of the year, you usually file for an extension. And the way my accountants would tell me, they say, Jerome, do you want to do a deposit so you don't have penalties and interest? Because even if you file an extension, but you don't pay your taxes, and then if you have net proceeds that are due to the IRS, you land up with penalties and interest on that amount because you did the extension. And it sucked because at the end of that, you land up having to pay the taxes plus penalties plus interest. It just delays it a little bit. So I would do that often because in spite of having the interest payments and the penalty payments, I was able to use that capital to grow. Okay. I've just found a better way to do it. And the way that we do it now is through cost segregation. Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that today as well. But really today I want to share with you guys kind of the underwriting of how you guys actually scale into the commercial game, the more of the multifamily game. But you can utilize the same aspects and attributes that I'm doing today. You can use this for warehouse. You can use it for retail. You can use it for office. You can use it in the hotel game if you guys want, in the hospitality world, or you guys can use this with multifamily. Okay. Now, one of the big things. And if you guys have questions, this is a little more interactive, a little bit more intimate for you guys today. If you guys have questions as we go along with this today, you guys can ask some questions. If I get a bunch of them where I get a little bit bombarded, I may wait and take some of them on at the tail end. But if there's just a few questions here and there coming through, I'm happy to take those questions on for you guys as well. Okay, now, let me see here. Let's see. Okay. You know that sometimes, guys, when we're doing this stuff, I want you guys to look at this from a perspective of life. One thing that I always tell people, especially when we're doing these trainings, guys, and they're a little bit more intimate. What I mean by that is that there's not like thousands of people on. We just have a few hundred people on here. One of the big things is understanding that there's more to everything that we do than just money. I'm going to explain this stuff to you guys, but if you guys don't get your, I call them the four F's, right? I call them the four F's. Okay. The first one is your faith. Okay. There's a lot of ups and downs in life. So first one's faith. Second is family, guys. The third is fitness, health and fitness. Okay. And then fourth is finance. Now, if you don't get those four things, if you don't get the first three taken care of, finances, even if you do gain them, they'll never reward you. They'll never reward you. So I always tell people, don't worry so much about the finances in regards to your day in, day out stuff. Worry more about the first three aspects, and then the byproduct is success in your finances. Okay. Okay. Let's sucker won't go. Okay. Anyways. Okay. So let's kind of run through this. Now, on the residential game, ladies and gentlemen, one of the big things with the residential game is getting you guys to a place where you guys where you guys go in and start making money doing residential. Now, if you're in a market right now, the market, as far as interest rates, is extremely high, as you guys know. Now, for building, it's okay, especially if you're building single family homes, because you're in and out of them. Okay, so I tell you guys, don't restrict yourself based on high interest rates for single family home builds. In fact, one of the biggest things that you guys should be taking on is debt for single family homes, because there's such a massive need right now. We're building in the Kirkland, Washington area. We're building over in Phoenix, Arizona, and we're building here in New Mexico right now. Dallas, Fort Worth, we've kind of put a halt on multifamily in there, but single family homes in that area, holy cow, it's unbelievable. That area is just screaming and booming right now with single family residential stuff. Now, one of the big things that we go over, and I'm going to crash through this really, really fast, guys. And I want to show you guys the multifamily game and what you do step by step in multifamily. Would you guys rather me spend more time in the residential, or would you guys rather me spend more time explaining to you guys how to get into like an 8-unit apartment complex? Just kind of put 8-unit, or just put residential in there. 8-unit, 8-unit, 1 residential, 8-unit, 8-unit, 2 residential, 3 residential, 4. Oof. Okay. We're getting a lot more commercial, guys. So you residential folks, we get a lot of residential stuff. And I do it regularly. So the residential stuff, there is no shortage. Let me explain something to you guys that want the residential stuff. I'll do this in a way. Why don't I do this in a way where I talk mostly about commercial stuff? I'm going to share with you guys the residential underwriting really quick, but I go through this in a way where I explain this on a commercial aspect on the multifamily, but I incorporate some of the underwriting with residential in there and some of the similarities. Would that be helpful? Can we do it that way? That way we kind of hit on both. You guys okay with that? Okay, let's do it. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen with you guys. And we're going to, let me run you guys through.
Hey, Jay, you went quiet on us.
Oh, shit. Okay, cool. I accidentally pressed when I grabbed my pen, I pressed mute. Sorry, guys. Okay, so at the end of this, guys, what I made mention before I muted myself, grabbing my little pen, my little Apple pen, is that at the end of this, I'm going to go kind of high level. I'm going to explain to you guys the real in and out of the multifamily game, but I'm going to explain it as we underwrite residential, show you guys the similarities. But when we do this, you're going to probably feel extremely overwhelmed because there's a lot of moving pieces to it. It doesn't mean that it's difficult, because what we're doing is not difficult, but there are moving pieces to it. So it's like everything, right? Like if you get in a car that's a stick shift or a standard, it seems overwhelming because you've never driven a car with a clutch before. But the second you start driving it, you sit back and realize that it's not as much of an undertaking as you might have thought it was, right? So I've been driving stick shift cars for my whole life, and that's all we got taught on. right? So I use that as an example because what we do isn't really difficult. You just haven't done it yet. For a lot of you guys, and those of you guys who have done it, we're going to take you to a different level of a lot of what most people do on a construction basis or investment purposes. Okay. Now, welcome, Gustavo. Okay, so let's see here. Let me share my screen with you guys, and I'm going to run through this high level. Okay. Oops. Let's see. I'm going to share my whiteboard. Okay, here we go. Okay, now here's the residential bills, guys. I'm going to run through this real quick on the residential side, and then I'm going to compare this to the commercial side and multifamily. Okay, now when we do a residential build, we usually will go in, and there's not a percentage of the price of the home that you should pay for a lot. But if I had to take it, it's probably close to about that 20% mark if you just want like a rule of thumb. So if you do like a lot, and I always say that the sweet spot for houses is between 750 to 850. And the reason I call that the sweet spot, because you'll make someplace in the neighborhood of about 250K. Okay, that's a great little paycheck. Okay, now this is the resale price of houses. Now there's some areas that people are more affluent areas. I always tell people, go in and look in your area where houses are selling for $1 million. Okay, where there's comps of homes selling for $1 million. You never want to be the big guy, and you never want to be the smallest guy. But someplace in the middle, you want to be right up in here. Okay. Now, if it comps for $1 million and you're building at this price right here, you're sitting at a really great place. Okay. Now, what you do have to look at is the price for the homes, because if the lot price is, let's say, for example, 200,000. Okay. So if the lot is equal to $200,000, you're going to be challenged to make this profit if you build closer to 750. Now, if you get between 850 and $1 million, you're going to be just fine. Okay. Because the $1 million mark, you're hitting that $200,000 range, right? So I always tell people, go in and on a house with $750,000 to $800,000, let's go in and pay someplace right around that 150, let's call it between 135 and 175. We'll call it like $150,000. Okay, for the lot. Now, there's a few contributors when you're buying your land, guys. There's a few contributors. One of them is utilities. Okay. Second is not just utility availability, but it also has to do with the grade of your land, right? So if you have a lot, and sometimes hillsides don't make a difference, right? So you could have a lot that's on the hillside, and if you can do what's called a cut and fill, where you cut it right here, you take this dirt and fill this. So you cut here, you fill this. Now, when you cut this, you're gonna have to do another slope back here, because if you go straight up, you need a retaining wall. So if you need like retaining walls come out of the baseline of your price. So I always tell people, when you guys go in, look for lots that are a little more flat. If they're not flat, make sure that you have a big enough lot where you can grade this in an angle, so that way you can eliminate doing a retaining wall right there. Okay. That way you don't have the expense of putting in retaining walls or any type of erosion control. You're able to just go in and level a pad site and build a house. Okay, you guys go in and build a house. Now, when we go in the utilities, and the lay of the land. Those two are probably the two biggest variables. Okay, lay of the land and utilities. Okay, now when we go in, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go in and build something that is market friendly. Okay, now I always tell people, don't build usually under about 1,700 square feet. That's abbreviation for square foot. And I would stay under the 3,000 square foot mark. Okay, so if we're building a house right about here, let's say that this house is someplace in the neighborhood of about 2,500 square feet. Okay, so if we have a house, the house that we're going to build is 2,500 square feet. Oops, it's not dollars, square feet. Okay, so 2,500 square feet. What we're going to do is we're going to take that 125. The national average, guys, is $141 a square foot to build a nice home. Nothing fancy. But if you guys want to do a semi-custom home that targets this audience right here and this demographics, these are sophisticated buyers, guys. And so these sophisticated buyers know the difference between really poor cabinets, or they understand the difference between really cheap lighting fixtures and restroom fixtures. And a lot of people go in and they'll go buy these garbage fixtures from like Home Depot or Lowe's or one of these places. And the biggest problem is that not everything that they sell is garbage by any stretch of the imagination. But when you're buying like Glacier Bay and the bottom end of like Glacier Bay or even American Standard, they're not that good, right? So we want to increase the quality. And so the way we do that is we increase our trim out items and we put the extra money over that 141 a square foot towards the house build itself. So if we're at like, let's call it $155 a square foot. Okay. So $155 per square foot. We have 2,500 square feet on the house. So we take $155 times 2,500. That's going to be $388,000. Okay, so the build cost is going to be equal to $388,000. Okay, now we have this right here. We have this right here. Okay, now that's accumulation, ladies and gentlemen, of all your soft costs, hard costs, meaning your plans, your architecture, your surveys, it's a mixture of your construction, ground up build costs for concrete, foundations, wood packages, trusses, all of the above. Okay. Now, when we come in and we do this, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to come in and assume these two items in a construction loan. Okay. The banks will lend you that money for the land. Okay. And what I always tell people is if your resale price is, let's call it $800,000. Okay. So if these are our prices, let's do our resale price. Oops. Your resale price at 800K. Okay. Okay. Now, if we have a resale price of $800,000, you're gonna go to a bank, and the bank's gonna give you 20% loan to cost, or loan to cost. But on the stabilized asset, as an investor, they'll give you 80% loan to value. That's based on comps. Okay, so that's based on comps. Okay, now when we look at this, we need two things. We need this item right here and this item right here in order to get this project done. So that's $388,000 plus 150,000. That's a total loan proceeds of $538,000. Okay, 538K. Now, if you take 80% loan to value as an investor on that $800,000 asset, you take 800 times 0.80 for 80% of that is going to be $640,000. That's what the bank, that's the max. That's the maximum banks will lend on your $800,000 house. Okay, is that 640? Is this less than the 640? Yes, by 100 grand, right? It's less. Yes, no, maybe so. Hello. There you go. Okay, guys. Remember, I'm here for you guys. You know, I don't need to underwrite this stuff. I can do this stuff in my sleep. I'm gonna go deep dive into this for you guys today. Okay. All right. So when we look at this, ladies and gentlemen, we have $538,000 needed for a loan. The bank is willing to lend up to this amount based on this value right here, as you as an investor. Okay. So you could underwrite this thing for even $100 more, $100,000 more, because you're 80% loan to cost. You want to make sure that it supports the amount, this amount right here. Okay. Now, if we do an 80% loan to cost, the bank right here at 640, they have 160K in equity. The bank has 160K in equity based on comps. Okay. How is the bank doing, guys? Is the bank doing okay with $160,000 in equity? Even if they maximized the bank loan, are they still doing okay? They're doing good, right? They got $160,000 in equity. They're only willing to lend 640. Okay. So here's the thing. What is the maximum amount that I can underwrite this at in order to still fall in alignment with this $640,000? Okay. That's the big question. Because when you go in and you guys start underwriting these, I tell you guys, look at this two ways. Your wholesale cost and then your retail. Okay, wholesale cost is going to come out to be someplace in the neighborhood of about that 538,000. This takes execution. Okay, that just takes execution and some minor management. Okay, to do wholesale. Now, to do the retail, you could go in and you can underwrite this thing as high as even like $700,000. So let's say that you have a spreadsheet, and on that spreadsheet, you're going through every little thing that you need. Okay. P.S. By the way, we do have spreadsheets like that for our students. And this is our wholesale list. This wholesale list comes up to be 538K. That includes land. So this is like land right here. And so say you put 150. Okay. And then you just go through foundation, dirt work, concrete, foundation, lumber package, truss package, framing, and you just go through every single line item. Okay. Now, at the end of this, guys, I'm going to invite you guys to come in and join me. And you guys will have an opportunity to come join me to learn this stuff in depth in Scottsdale on the 30th. Okay. You guys don't have to come. You guys can get with my team. And you guys can find out a little bit more details. I'm not really going to talk too much about that today. I just want to kind of share with you guys a little bit about what we do and how our students are friggin' crushing it right now with this business model. And you can too. And I know most of you guys have been following our content for a long time. Okay, now when we go in and we look at our retail cost over here, ladies and gentlemen, our retail cost over here can go up to about 700K. Now, they'll only lend you 80% loan to cost. So if our retail cost is 700K and they're only going to loan me 80% of it, let's see what 80% of 700K looks like. Times 0.8, that's $560,000. Okay, so 80% loan to cost equals 560. How much do you guys need to build this? 538. If the bank's only willing to give you 560 for this house, and that house will list for 800,000, sell for 800,000, you guys realize that's $240,000 worth of equity that the bank has on that home? You guys realize that? How is the bank doing if you default on that finished house once you're done with construction? How is the bank doing? The bank's goal is to go in there and get you to finish that house, because if they get it to finish the house, then they have interest payments from you. They're making money. If you also finish the house, they have collateralization of the house, and they have a shit ton of equity in here. Okay. So remember, guys, I'm telling you guys, if $560,000 for comps that support an $800,000 build right here, one of the big things you got to look at is the bank's position on this entire asset. And I know you guys aren't taught this stuff in school, ladies and gentlemen. I know that this is like speaking Mandarin to most of you guys, or speaking Arabic or something else, you know? And so understand that money and finances is not the bandwidth of expertise that most people on this call have, because our education system failed to teach it to us. So unless you have a business parent or entrepreneurial parent, or you're just good with numbers in general, you won't understand this stuff unless you pay attention. Okay. So if we only need 538 to build it, including the land, and they're willing to give us $560,000, the bank's still at a really good place. Yeah. Bank's sitting really pretty. Okay. Now, with that said, let me put this in red real quick so I can highlight these. We have these expenses, this expense right here. Okay. Now, we know we can get the money, so we don't have to pay for the land, because the land is the first draw. This includes the land. This cost to build over here. Okay. Now, we go in, ladies and gentlemen, we see the 150,388. We have our loan proceeds of 538. Let's take that 538. We take this number right here, this $538,000, and let's say that we're paying even 10% APR. Okay. Now, if we go in and we take 10% APR, no, they won't want any more down. They're going to collateralize the land, guys. They're going to collateralize the land. They're not going to give you this money. They're not just going to stuff this money in your bank account. As you guys go in and you start doing these line items here, land, dirt, foundation, framing, HVAC, plumbing, electrical. Okay. As you guys go through this, the percentage that you're done. So if you're 100% done on this, you're 100% done on this, but you're only 50% done on that. Maybe you're only and then you're 0 on plumbing, 0 on HVAC. Well, plumbing, you might be at like 30% because you did your roughing. Okay. So you'll add up these percentages, and then based on what these percentages are, the banks will draw you some money that'll ultimately come from the construction loan proceeds, which will be this number right here, but up to that number right there. Okay. Now, when you guys go in and you guys are doing this, one of the things you got to pay attention to is the cost for debt. Okay. So your debt service is 10% APR. We're going to take that $538,000. So we take 538. multiply that times 10%. Okay, it's 53,000. Now, because it's stair steps, like it does right here, like I was showing you guys right here, they don't just charge you interest on all of this all at one time, guys. They break it up into installments. Okay, now when you go in, yeah, the land is not included in the build cost, guys. The land is separate from the build cost. That's why I circle it independently. Okay, now when we go in and we look at our debt service on $538,000, that's $53,800. But because they're giving this to you escalating as you're going through these line items, it's typically about 30% on the dollar, your interest on an annualized basis, because you usually won't have a loan for a full year. You'll start drawing on it after you get your permits, after you get your land and you got your permits, and then it's going to take you about 5 to 6 months to build this house. When you build this house for 5 or 6 months, ladies and gentlemen, one of the big things you got to remember is that you're not going to be paying debt after you sell the house. So you might have like 9 months of debt service on this house, including resale and everything. So if you take that $53,000 and you multiply that times 30%, that's going to be right about what your debt service is going to be. That's going to be about $16,000. That's even high. I'd beg to argue the fact that that'll be about 10 grand as opposed to the 16K. But let's just be conservative. Okay, let's be a little more conservative. Okay, so now we have our resale cost. Okay, our resale cost, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be the $800,000. We're going to have 3% to the buyer's broker, 3% to the seller's broker, and 1% to escrow agents for closing. You're going to have about 7%. Okay, so when we go in here, at that 7%, we're going to take $800,000. Times 7%, that's $56,000. Okay, so it's $56,000. Okay, now let's add these up, and I'm going to get this in the multifamily sector. You guys ready for some multifamily? Yes or no? You guys ready for some multifamily? Okay. All right, guys. So when we go in, we're going to add all of these numbers up. We're going to add this up. We're going to add this up. We're going to add this 150, and we're going to add this up. Okay. So we have 150,000 plus 388 plus we have 16K in debt service plus 56,000 in closing costs. Okay, that's $610,000. Okay, so total cost is 610. Okay, your resale price is 800K. So you subtract the 610 of all expenses in here, and you're going to be at $190,000 net profit. How are you doing financially, guys? How are you doing financially? You guys doing okay? Okay, now how many of you guys, you do all this work, you learn this, you do all this work, how many of you guys want to give about $85,000 of that to the IRS? Anybody? You work that hard, you give $85,000 of that to the IRS, you walk out with $100,000. That sucks. Okay. So here's what's better than doing that, guys. And then I'm going to open this up for Q&A. I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to open it up for for Q&A here in just a minute. But let me show you guys what to do with this stuff, okay? This house right here, guys, let me kind of reduce this. This house right here is probably about 2,500 square feet, okay? That's what we said. This is on the under air. Or in cold areas, they call it heated. Okay, so this is your main area. This is the main area, okay? But if you add the garage is going to add about 900 to 1,000 square feet. Okay, the from the back porch is going to add maybe about 800 square feet. Front porch maybe like 250. So that's 2,500, 3,500, 2,500, 3,500, 41, 40, 4,050 square feet. Okay, that's how big one house is. So if you do two of these, you're at 8,100 square feet. Okay, if you do a 2-time multiply. Why is this important? Because let's look at like a little 10-unit apartment complex. Okay, 10 units. Let's say that the average unit with maybe 5 1-bedrooms, 5 2-bedrooms is going to be someplace in the neighborhood of about 900 square feet. Okay, 10 units, each equal to 900 square feet. Now we take 10 units times 10, that's 9,000 square feet. Okay. So if we go in, this is units, size of each unit. Okay. Now, this 9,000 square feet is what's important to us. Okay. Is it a little bigger than that? Yeah, it's a little bigger than that, but within a few hundred square feet. Do you guys think you guys can pallet off building a 10-unit apartment complex if you guys go in and you guys have been executing building houses for a couple years? Of course, yeah. Okay, now, when we do this, we're going to take this 9,000 square feet, and here's what we're going to do, guys. We're going to take this 9,000 square feet, and we're going to turn this into a 10-unit apartment complex. But I can't get a 10-unit apartment complex unless I do one thing, guys. I need to make sure it's going to work, that it's going to function. So I go in and I get what's called pro formas. Where do you get pro formas? You get them from your broker, your big commercial broker. Okay. You're also going to get them from your property management companies. Okay. Now, the pro formas give you all expenses, all rent rates, they give you the pro formas are going to give you all of the rubs, like the rental upgrades, like application fees. So let's put rubs. The pro formas are going to give you all this stuff. These two are the most important: expenses and rent rates, because those two things are going to depict what's called net operating income. Okay. Now, when we go in and we look at these pro formas, we take these numbers and we plug them in to this right here. So if we go in and the brokers say, "Yup, Jerome, you can fill this thing. We have a massive need in this area." So then we go in and based on the pro formas, we try to hit the nail on the head on the best returns. Who has the best returns? How big are their units? How big are their units, and and what type of amenities do they have? Okay, what is it that they have that has the least amount of expenses, and why is this asset different than everybody else's, right? So we're looking at the pro formas, and then we sit back and say, okay, I'm going to build exactly what's already working, what they're in need of, and I'm going to go into any given territory, and I'm going to put down a 10-unit apartment complex. Now, when we do this, we have 10 units, 9,000 square feet. The cost to build an apartment complex is about, I'd say closer to about that 185 a square foot mark. We're spending about 155 to 157 a square foot right now, but that's us self-performing. If we hire a GC, it'd probably be a little bit more. So let's just say 185 a square foot. So if we have 9,000 square feet times $185 a square foot, this is your build cost. Okay, so we have 9,000 square feet times 185. That's hold on. 185 times 9,000. Okay, that gives you a valuation of 16 million. Not a valuation, sorry. That gives you a build cost of 16 million. 9,000 times 185. Yeah, 1,655,000. So we have a build cost. This calculator doesn't have commas in it, so it throws me off a little bit. So our build cost is going to be okay. Now this is on the high end, guys, for raw build cost. That's okay. I'd rather be conservative. 1,665. Okay, now our land for something like this is going to cost you somewhere right around 350 to 400,000. Let's call it $500,000. Let's call it 500K. Okay, so we go in, we have $500,000 in the land, we have $1,665,000 in the overall build cost. Okay, now when we go in and we look at this, if we're going to build and hold this, we don't have any brokerage fees. We're just going to build and hold at these right here. Now you're going to need same similarities as the residential. You're going to need both of these for your construction loan. Okay, so 500,000. You want the bank to pay for your land for you. That's a no-brainer. You want them to give you credit for it. Plus 1,665,000. Okay, that's a total of 1,668. Oops, hold on. Plus $1,665,000. That's 2,165,000 total cost. Okay. Now, when we do that, ladies and gentlemen, one of the things that you want to see is, okay, this is my total cost right here, but what is my total value? Okay. This number is important because this is how you pay no taxes. Total value is equivalent to no taxes. Okay. I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. Okay. So now we have our cost to, now we have our total cost to build. What's our value? So our total value, we have nine units, right? So we have 10 units. We have 10 units. And if we have 10 units and we multiply that, let's say that the average unit, we have 5 1-beds and 5 2-baths, 2 beds. And so the 1-beds nationwide, let's say that they're going for about $1,500 a month. The two beds, let's say that those ones are sitting right about $2,100 a month. Okay, so if we have 5 and 5, we have five of these and 5 of these. Okay, so we do a multiplier of 1,500 times 5, $7,500. We do $2,100 times 5, that's $10,500. Okay, that's 8. $18,200 times 12. Okay, everything is annualized. So we take $18,200, multiply that times 12 to make it annualized. That's going to give us a gross income potential of $2,184,000. Okay, that's your gross income potential. Now, let's say that this is only 95% occupied. Okay, so we have 95% of that, so 2,184,000 times 0.95. That's going to be 207. So our gross operating income equals $2,074,800. Okay. Now we're going to go in and get our NOI. NOI equals your gross operating income minus expenses. Let's say our expenses are 30%. Okay, 30% of our gross operating income. So now we take 30% of our GOI. So we take 30%. That'll give us our expenses. Okay. So we'll take we'll subtract out laundry, we'll subtract out parking lots, broken light fixtures, broken toilets, property insurance. We're going to take out property taxes. Everything but your debt service gets subtracted from your gross operating income. So if all of that added up is 30%, then you have $2,074,800 times 0.30. That means we have $622,000 in expenses. Okay. So expenses, oops. Oh shit. Okay. So expenses $623K. Okay. Now we're going to take our GOI, which is, we're going to find our NOI. We're going to take our GOI, which is the $2,074,800, and we're going to subtract your expenses. You thought what was 200K? Your expenses? You thought your expenses were 200K? Your expenses are 30% of your gross operating income. So if you take, oh, you know what? You might be right. Hold on. I might be high on this. I might have added a comma, guys. Give me 1 second here. So if I take 18,200 times 12, let me see if I added a comma. I don't have a comma on this stupid calculator. Sorry, guys. My calculator is 218,000. I'm used to doing my big bills. So watch. Let me erase this real quick so I don't confuse you guys. So this is 218,400. I have one too many zeros. and my commas are in the wrong spot. Okay, so $218,000, $218,400. Okay, now we take 30%. So we're going to take the gross income potential times 0.95. That still gives us 207,480. Okay, so we have, let me fix this right here. Where we come in, let me take off that zero, guys. I need to use a better calculator. 207,480. Okay, now we subtract out our expenses. Okay, so we're going to take 30% of 207,480. Okay, so we take 207,480 times 0.30. That's going to be 62,244. So all the numbers are the same. I just added one too many zeros on there. Okay, so that's 62,000. So minus 62,244. Okay, now when we go in and we subtract out 62,244 on your expenses, now that's going to give you 207. We're going to subtract 207,480. That's going to give you a net operating income of 145,236. Okay, now that's our NOI. Now, when we look at the value, guys, remember, this is our total cost to build right here. This is our total cost to build. Take that out of there so you guys don't get confused. Okay, so this is our expenses right here. And then our value equals NOI divided by cap rate. How many of you guys do not know what a cap rate is? How to figure out a cap rate? How many of you guys, just by show of hands, how many of you guys do not know how to figure out a cap rate? Okay. So a lot of you guys don't know what a cap rate is. Okay, so a cap rate is the percentage that you make over the value of the asset. Okay, so it's like the return on your investment in the stock market. So like if you go in and you buy 100 shares of Apple, for sake of example, and let's say you have $100,000 you invested in Apple. It's a lot more than that for that many shares, but let's say it's $100,000 that you invest in Apple. You're going to make 6% on that $100,000. So the 6% that you make on your stock is your return on investment. Your cap rate essentially is just your return on investment. So if you paid cash for that asset, that's what the cap rate is. Now, you cannot pay more. You cannot pay more for debt service than the property makes, because if you do, you go bankrupt. And that's one of the big problems today. So the interest rate and the cap rate have to run parallel to each other. So if you can go out and get a HUD loan, and on that HUD loan, let's say that you guys go on that HUD loan, and that HUD loan is at 6% on your annual percentage rate. Then your cap rate also has to be 6%. Okay, so let's take the NOI. The NOI is this number right here. And if we take the NOI of 145,236 and we divide that by a 6% cap rate, the value of that asset is going to be $2,420,000. Okay, what that means, guys, is that this is your total cost to build. Is this amount right here? This is your value. Okay, now that's pretty tight. We only have a few $100,000 in value, but here's the thing. If this property, if it cost you that much to build, you can either do two things. You need to figure out a way to increase these rent rates and have these go up. That'll ultimately increase your NOI. Or you have to decrease your expenses. If you decrease your expenses, that'll also help decrease your NOI. Biden just went over a big, just went through where he was saying that he was going to try to push through some rent caps for investors. Okay, let me explain what this will do for you guys. It's a stupid proposal, but it'll work great for owners, but it's going to screw the rest of the U.S. American people. So if according to Biden, what he was saying is he said rent rates can go up 5% annually. So let's take this $1,500, guys, and this is in order to control inflation. This is to control and help stabilize affordable housing. Okay, I want to see if you guys agree that it stabilizes affordable housing. We take $1,500 and times 0.05. That's 5% per year. That means there's a $75 increase each year. Okay, so the first year is $1,575. Okay, so $1,575. That's year one. Year two, take $1,575 times 5%. That's 78 plus 1,500. That means that's 1578 plus 75. That's a total of 1,600. This is per month. 1,654 per month. Year three. It's going to be 1,735. Year four. Is going to be 1,817 per month. Okay, 4 years from now, that's going. Here's your rate increase, guys. How many people think this is affordable? If people can't afford to pay this right now, in 4 years from now, it's going to go up $315 a month. The national average is 2% annually. Okay, Biden's going to cap it at 5%. So 5%, if we capped it at 5% and we kept doing this, just keep going up. In 10 years, your rent will be $2,300 a month for a one-bedroom apartment. In 10 years from now, on a $2,100 a month on your two-bedroom house, on your two-bedroom apartment, $2,100 times 0.05 is 105. So 1 times 2,100. So 10. In 10 years, that's going to take this up to $3,200 a month. So your two bedrooms will be $3,200 a month, $3,250 per month. Okay. So what that means that would do for what we're doing here, that would increase our profits by 5% annually. So if we go in and we figure out our value in 10 years from now, you guys want to see what that looks like? Do you guys want to see what our value looks like? Okay, so if we do this right here in 10 years, 2,300 times 5 equals 1,150 per month. You out of here, baby girl? Where are you going? Oh, you're going shopping? For Mexico? I love you. Okay, so we have $11,500 per month. And then we have 3,250 times 5 units. That's 16,250 per month. And we're going to multiply that times 12. Okay, so we're going to add those together. We're going to add them together and multiply them by 12. Okay, so we'll add 16,250 plus 11,500. That's 27,750 times 12 months in the year. That's $333,000. Okay. So if we take that same amount, guys, and we take the same 30% to run that asset, so time, because inflation, right? So times 0.3, that means our expenses are $99,900. Okay, so that's $100,000. So basically, we take our to find our NOI. This is going to be our gross operating income, and we take our NOI and our expenses. You're going to have expenses of $100,000. That's your expenses. Let's take 333,000 times 0.95 for 95% occupancy. So that's $317,000 for our GOI. So we take 317K minus $100,000. So our NOI is equal to 217K divided by, if it's still 6%, hopefully interest rates would be lower.
Hey, Jerome, this is coming in really light. Your text is.
It is.
Did something
Can
change
people
on
not see it?
10? Yeah, it's coming in really light. It's like it's changed up. It's.
Let me see if that does it. I don't know. I'm almost done here anyways. Can these guys see at least what I have on here now, or is it not coming in at all?
Yeah, it's very faint.
Just have to look. Yeah, these guys said it's showing up. Yes. Okay. You can see it better. Okay. I'm not sure why it got more faint, guys. Okay. We're almost done right here. So I'm just going to show you guys the value on this thing now. So we have a net operating income of $217,000, 217,123 times 0.06 divided by 6% to 217 divided by 6. That's going to be $3.6 million. Okay. $3.61 million, guys. That's my value. 2.4, 3.6, 10 years, it goes up $1.2 million on a little 10 unit. You can do a cash out refi and just pull $1.2 million out just over the next 10 years. Even if you do nothing at all to the property and rent rates go up 5% a year. Those are great increases, by the way. And so it doesn't really control inflation. But let me show you something even better. Okay. Now, if interest rates go down by even 1% and interest rates drop, and this cap rate goes from a 6% to a 5% cap rate, even off of today's numbers, then you take this same $145,236 and you divide that times 5%. That gives you a $2.9 million valuation. That's at a 5 cap. At a 4% cap rate, you take the same 145,236 divided by 0.04. That gives you a $3.6 million value. Okay. So I would say get rid of Biden's proposal, keep rent rates low. This is more affordable. Look at, guys. Keep rent rates right here. Lower interest rates, and the value at a 4% cap rate is the same value as it would be in 10 years from now. Okay? Just by lowering interest rates 2%. Crazy, isn't it? Okay. What's more affordable, guys? Raising interest rates 5 years keeping interest rates high and raising rent 5% each year, or just keeping rents right where they're at and lowering interest rates. Our economy would be stronger too. Values would go back up, and we don't have to wait 10 years for those values to go back up. Okay. Now, if cap rates go down and rent rates go up, now that asset's going to be worth something like $5 million, and it's going to be a super home run. So the biggest thing is, how do you find an equal balance, right? Where interest rates can afford themselves, money is reasonably priced, and you can go in and increase rents a little bit where they're marginally reasonable, like 2%, 2.5%. And you get a mixture of both of those. Now your value is going to be worth over $4 million in 10 years from now. And you still have more affordable and attainable housing. Okay. And that's the goal. Okay. So knowing that stuff forward and backwards is what's important. Now let's go to our Q&A, guys. Let me open this up for you guys for just for a little bit of Q&A. And we'll do 15 minutes of Q&A. Now, that stuff is pretty intense, is it not? Okay, it is. There's a lot to that. Now, one thing, guys, is how many of you guys would love an opportunity to spend an entire day with me, where my team and I in our Build Wealth community spend an entire day from 9 o'clock in the morning all the way till 5 o'clock at night, eating lunch with us, hanging out with us, and being able to join us for an entire day where we go through an intensive training on in the morning about residential, kind of similar to what I just did, but in depth. And then we go in and we do the same exact thing in the afternoon, but for multifamily. And we really get down to the nitty gritty. How many of you guys would like to do that? Okay. Now, the biggest thing is you guys will have an opportunity to do so. The thing is, guys, is you guys probably got a text message right now where you guys can set up a call with my team, and they can share with you guys a little bit more about how to get to Scottsdale with us in October. You can go in and spend an entire day with me. I'm going to do a workshop. It's the second one that we've ever done. We just did one in Dallas. And for those of you guys who want to join us, you guys are welcome to do so. Because it's in Phoenix, for a few of you guys, we may select some of you guys to go out to our West Camelback project and go drive that project with us, and potentially have an opportunity to potentially see it boots on the ground as it's under construction. How many people would love to do that? It'd be pretty freaking cool. We'll get some charter buses, some vans, and get out there. Okay. That's going to be on October 12th, guys, October 12th. And so you guys will have a full intensive day with us. And now for some of you guys, you're sitting back going, well, Jerome, it's only July. Like, I want to get started now. I don't want to wait till October. That's great. Schedule a call with my team. And if that's you and you say, hey, I want to get started like sooner building and doing stuff, schedule a call with my team. You guys just got a text message on your cell phones right now. And on your cell phones, you can just schedule a call with somebody on my team. They'll help explain to you guys how we can move that forward fast, and how you guys can actually onboard and go to Scottsdale with us. Okay. Now, Q&A, guys. Let's go in for a little bit of Q&A. We what we are going to focus on today's subject. Okay, that was Amron. Now, I was calling this Rhino style real estate, guys, because this is real, right? I was just up at WealthCon this weekend. I got on stage and I showed them, and I told them, I said, hey, look, guys, this is a real business. This is not, this isn't like cryptocurrencies or NFTs or any of these things that you just throw money into and you make a ton of money overnight. This is a real business that'll last forever. You can't make money in cryptocurrency like you did once before. You can't make money in NFTs like you were able to once before. In fact, I think there was more people losing money on NFTs now, and I thought that was a big scam. I can't believe that the NFT thing went as far as it did and was so viable for such a short period of time, but became so viable. But yet, there's companies that are multi-level marketing that the FTC will shut down, and they have tangible products, yet NFTs, they'll put these bullshit art things together and they'll disappear. So I always tell people, this isn't some bullshit that's going to come and go. This is real, guys. It's a real business. And so there is real moving pieces to it. So it means it's going to be some work. So like I told them at WealthCon this past weekend, I said, look, guys, you guys are going to need support. You're going to need help. I can come in, feed you guys with a fire hose. But when you guys have support is when you're really going to start making money. Okay. Now, cannot see screen. Do you think opening an LLC and buying a lot and using a construction loan to build and resell houses is a good idea? Yeah, that's exactly what we do. If so, how can I do this step by step? Yeah, Elias, it's our 14-step process. We have it in there, and you can come in and we teach that. That's what we do all day long. We have thousands of students now across the United States that are part of what we're doing, and we have hundreds of them that are active and are building right now. We have an affiliate called Prime Corp Services to set up your first LLC. And we'll even pay for the first LLC. You have to pay for the state filing and registration for the from the federal and from the federal side, the federal registration and state registration. But the legal work to put the LLC and register it is free. Okay, but the registration fees that the state and feds charge are not free. But we have an affiliate that'll do that for you, and then we share with you guys how to go out and do the construction loan and the process to do so. Okay. Now, Dave, let's keep all the comments, guys, inside the Q&A section. The chat is good, but it's hard for me to open both of them at the same time. Okay. The banks Inhale spoken with have said they need to see actual funds into the transactions. Are there lenders out there that will actually lend on loans to loan to cost with no actual funds into the transactions? Yes, there is. Just talk to more banks. Look at local regional banks and credit unions. The best place to get loans on these guys is from your local lenders. Okay, your local lenders are the number one place to get loans on these assets. Okay, local community banks, credit unions, and then we have affiliates as well that will also lend on, just like I'm explaining to you guys. Now, it's tough if you just go into a bank and you sit back and you have nothing. You don't have a piece of land, or maybe you have a piece of land, but there's no drawings for it. They don't even have anything to appraise, right? So I always tell people, when you go in asking for money, give them something tangible to appraise it at. So when they say you need to have tangible money, okay, well, why? If they're collateralizing an asset that's worth $200,000 more than the amount they're going to lend you, they have a safety net to be able to do the lending on that. But the biggest thing is you've got to put a set of prints together. You got to get the architectural drawings. That's going to help get you guys to the finish line. Okay. And if that one bank doesn't do it, go talk to the next bank. But talking to the bank is like the fourth step in the process. Step number one is find a piece of land. Step number two is once you find it, is to tie it up and get it tied up. Step number three is to get all your architecture and engineering and surveying done. Okay. And then step number four is to submit is to go in at the same time as you go in for lending and submit for building permits at the same time that you go in for your construction loan. Okay. Once you have a finished set of blueprints and it's ready to go, the probability of you getting a loan and them being able to assess the value versus the amount they're going to lend you is simpler. And so your chances of getting approved are substantially higher. Okay. Do you need budget? Do you need budget for agents' commission for buying land? No, because typically the seller pays for the commissions. The seller typically pays the buyer's broker and selling broker, unless you negotiate it otherwise. But if I'm buying the land, I want them to pay for it. But the seller typically pays the broker. That's why when you guys see our cost to build, now we're the seller, right? We don't account for it on the front end when we're buying the land because the seller of the land typically pays those commissions. Now, it is negotiable, but it's more standard for the seller to pay for it than is the buyer. That's why when we're going in and we're selling the house, and if you pay attention to the underwriting that I did, it'll say, what are our closing costs? 3% to the buyer's broker, 3% to the selling broker, and then you have 1% for the escrow money, because the seller assumes the vast majority of the expenses when they're buying owner's policies, closing documents, and they're going through all the closing costs plus all the the brokerage fees, the seller incurs those fees, not the buyer, the seller. So we don't underwrite those percentages into the land purchase because the seller's paying those, but we do underwrite it on the resale of the home when we become the seller. Does that make sense? Okay. I need a price list on average cost per contract on each job. General contractor, keep the price from you, especially when they can raise the cost. Yeah, Theo. So what you'll do, Theo, is you'll actually, that's why those spreadsheets that we have are priceless. If you guys are working with us, we don't just send those spreadsheets out to everybody because obviously they're a tool that we utilize and leverage and want to make sure people are using them right, first and foremost. But second, we kind of protect those assets to the people, for the people that are actually working with us. And so if you utilize those spreadsheets, Theo, it'll help you out substantially and keep you very well organized. Keep the prices. That way you can go in, get all the prices yourself from other subcontractors and put a clause in your contract that says, I have the ability, every contract, the contract that works for you, if they get costs from subcontractors, they have to provide a minimum of 3 per trade, 3. And I have the ability to also get my own third-party prices. And those third-party prices have to compete with what these other folks, the general contractors, getting. And if they're not within a 3 to 5% price variance, then they have to use mine. If they stay within 3 to 5%, then we can use theirs. But if they're 3 to 5% more expensive than my trade contractors, then I can push them to use my trade guys. Okay, so a little clause, we'll put a little contingency clause in there that we'll do sometimes. Okay, Dirk, when going into a market, how do you determine what rent you can charge? So we use pro formas, guys. If you go back and you watch the beginning of this video and just put hashtag repeat, if you watch this on repeat, just go back to the beginning of the video where I'm explaining that. And I'll go in to determine what the rents can charge. And then I'll do that based on pro formas. So based on the pro formas is what I will charge. Now, you could always charge more. It just doesn't mean that it might take a slower period of time to lease it up. So you want a threshold where you can push rents as much as you can to make as much revenue as you can, but you also got to be cautious not to be greedy, because if you're too greedy, you also lose. Okay? Okay. Would a 70-unit vacant property in small town be worth it? Going for 1.5 million, it is supposedly said to have 0.7 to 7% to 10% cap rate. Okay. Yeah, you have to underwrite it based on current numbers, anonymous attendee. Would a 70-unit vacancy property in a small town be worth it? Depends what the rents are. Get a pro forma. See what, or go walk and see what rents are being charged next door and down the street from this asset. But you got to pencil it. You got to do the exact same underwriting that I just did for you guys a bit ago. Before you asked that question, we just did some multifamily underwriting. If you go in and you do some theoretical numbers on the underwriting for a 70-unit, utilize getting them as close as possible based on other properties that are renting in that area, you'll be surprised what you're able to get from. It'll tell you exactly what you can spend on that property. Okay, but you have to be able to underwrite. I don't know if 1.5 million is reasonable or not. It could be. It could not. It might not be. Okay, you have to underwrite it. Okay, looking to wholesale it. Okay, cool. Make some money on it. Ben, can you recap the main tax advantage to building multifamily? Oh, yes. So let's go through this, guys. Sorry. I went through this, and the biggest thing is to show you guys how to not pay taxes. So here's why I love this. Okay, here's why I love this. Okay, let's see if my pencil works better now. Okay, so if we have a $2.4 million asset, and let's say the land, that's the that's the appraised value. And let's say, for sake of example, the land was even $500,000. That's 20, it's 2.4. So that's going to be $1.9 million. So now you have $1.9 million value minus the land. Okay. That's post land reduction. Okay. So minus the land. Now we could take up to 80% of this the first year. Okay. So we take $1.9 million, $1,900,000 times 0.8. That's $1.52 million. This is your bonus. Okay, so this is your tax deduction, $1.5 million, and it never expires. Okay, now if you go out and you build some houses and you make that $200,000 per house, you take 1,520,000 divided by $200,000 net profit. If you only did one house a year, guys, you have 7.6 years that you don't have to pay taxes on the proceeds of that home, provided you keep this apartment complex. Okay, on that little tiny one, that little 10 unit. Okay, that's the tax benefit right there. That's how we don't pay federal income taxes. Okay. Hope that helped you guys. Okay, I'm going to do 2 more questions. Find one that already has utilities. There's not a trick to finding land that has utilities already, guys. You just have to drive around, see what type of infrastructure is there, and if there's no infrastructure, you don't like the lots, don't buy. Run comps. Comps sometimes support it. Like if it needs a septic tank, houses are selling for $750,000, but the land is $75,000. You might want to consider putting a septic tank in for $25,000. Okay. I mean, not for 25,000. The average septic tank is going to be someplace right around $8,000 right now. Okay. So not very expensive. Okay. That was Ruben. How about iPhone? How can I get a loan for construction on a residential house? We already have paid the lot and plans from scratch. We did the plans. We need $300K to build the house in the area. The house is around $4.5K to $55.5K. We already have the permit to build. Good. Take that to your bank. That's how you get the loan. Take the blueprints to the bank. Take everything to the bank and have them appraise it for you, guys. Have them appraise it for you. Okay. And once you get that appraisal back, we should give you 80% or 75% loan to cost. I would take them a retail budget, not a wholesale budget either. I take them something closer to about that $200 a square foot or $185 a square foot or something a little more expensive to offset your 20% down payment. Okay. Okay. Do a couple more. Yeah, $1 to $155, Marco, a square foot does include excavation. HUD loans want experience. I haven't done multifamily yet. Want to partner on a 67 unit in Birmingham, Washington. I own the land already. Cool. Jeff, I don't know. I don't really partner with too many people. You have to bring more than land to the table. You'd have to bring some talent to the table, Jeff. But if you got some talents that you can bring to the table, then we consider it. Just hit us up and email us. Okay. Gabriel Diaz, how do you float debt since service while you are waiting for permits? I try to do them simultaneously. That's what I try to do. Okay. If you're doing 100% loan to cost, just do a retail cost, not a wholesale cost. Okay. Some counties can take up to 6 to 8 months, but the average permit underwrite to get permits typically is within 34 days or 36 days in plan review for residential is the national average. Okay. But there are areas that are slower and some areas that are faster. Can I have a video with a clean whiteboard so that I can learn the basis? Yeah, we'll pump this back out to you guys. We'll pump this back out to you guys. What do you get with our course? Okay, so we have different types, Ozzy. People that are working with us, they're part of our inner community forever. So you get a lifelong access. And when I say lifelong access, it's the life length of the course. We've had the same course for 5 years, and so if I do it for another 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, you guys get access to me every week for the duration that we're doing this. You get weekly calls with me where you guys get to bring your own projects in. I help you guys underwrite them. We run through all of that stuff weekly. Your guys' designs, your guys' everything. The other thing that you guys get is you get the ability to get our online content that'll save you literally about 3 years. It'll shave about 3 years off your build, guys. Save about 3 years off your build time and construction time as far as lending. So you get all our modules, plus you get our community, and then there's also other little perks and whistles that you guys get too. But the community-based relationships with people that are doing what you're doing are priceless. So you guys get that as part of it. And plus you guys get, what else do you get? You get some other stuff. Deal flow. Look for deal flow together. A little bit of exposure. A little bit of all that stuff. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we had a damn busy weekend. We did our mastermind. We did a meetup on Thursday, a mastermind meetup on Friday, and then we did the GuelphCon event on Saturday, and then back home to our church fiestas. So thank you guys for partaking. I'm going to leave the lines open. You guys can get with my team if you guys have questions. But in your text messages, guys, there is a SMS message that allows you to schedule a call. Take advantage of that call. Okay. I would take advantage of it and utilize it so that way we can help you move forward. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to leave it open with my team. If you guys have questions for them, you guys are welcome to ask. I thank you guys. God bless you guys. You guys all have a great night.